Tiffany Henyard, former mayor of Dalton, has recently admitted to being financially broke, leaving many shocked by the stark contrast between her lavish past and current financial turmoil. Once living a lifestyle that seemed to know no bounds, she is now reportedly begging everyday citizens for financial help just to maintain her extravagant living. This is the same woman who once spent a jaw-dropping $199,000 on welcome banners, and now she's unable to cover basic bills. It's a mess. And things are getting uglier by the day. Henyard's rise to power included spending taxpayer dollars, as if she had unlimited access to a blank check. She was known for living the high life, expensive trips, $1 million security detail, and more, all while Dalton, the town she was meant to serve, was sinking deeper into financial disarray. Residents were struggling, and meanwhile, Henyard was splurging on $119,000 worth of banners bearing her own face, even as essential services like the fire department went without contracts for 5 years. The average household in Dalton could barely make ends meet, but Henyard was spending taxpayer money like it was nothing while the people of Dalton face hardships. Henyard appeared to be completely detached from their struggles. Not only did she spend an outrageous amount on the welcome banners, but she also maintained a costly security detail that followed her around at the expense of the town. Officers in this detail earned over $133,000 in a single pay period due to overtime, which is more than many of Dalton's residents make in several years. The most shocking part of this extravagance is that Henyard's spending habits weren't limited to the town's budget. It turns out that she also took out millions of dollars in personal loans, using city infrastructure as collateral. Now, as creditors come knocking, she's facing major financial fallout. Police department vehicles are reportedly at risk of being repossessed because Dalton can't pay its mounting debts, but the scandal doesn't end there. Henyard allegedly engaged in a scheme to profit off Section 8 housing, a program designed to assist low-income families in finding safe, affordable homes. Henyard owned a property that was eligible for Section 8 payments, and she continued to collect government subsidies, despite the building being in deplorable condition. The place was riddled with mold, water damage, and other hazards, but Henyard ignored the issues and kept cashing the checks. By November 2019. The property was officially declared uninhabitable. However, even after this, Henyard continued to collect Section 8 payments, failing to make any necessary repairs. The inspections of the property revealed more shady dealings. The moldy walls, the neglected property, and the fact that Henyard seemed unconcerned about the unsafe conditions tenants were forced to live in. It's a grim situation. Low-income individuals and families were living in conditions that were a health hazard, while Henyard continued to pocket government funds meant to improve these living situations. What makes it even worse is that Henyard's actions appear to be part of a larger pattern of financial mismanagement, fraud, and corruption. From misusing taxpayer funds to allegedly profiting off dilapidated Section 8 properties, it's clear that her time in office was marked by reckless spending and an utter disregard for the well-being of Dalton's residents. Instead of prioritizing the needs of the people she served, Henyard used her position to enrich herself at their expense. The public is rightfully furious, as it seems Henyard believed she was above the law. While her constituents struggled to get by, she lived large, seemingly oblivious to the impact of her actions. Her extravagant trips, expensive security, and the over-the-top spending on banners were all funded by the very people she was supposed to be serving. Meanwhile, Dalton's residents couldn't even rely on basic services like fire protection, and the police department was on the verge of losing its vehicles. To make matters worse, Henyard's personal financial issues now threatened to affect the entire town. The financial mismanagement she's left behind will likely take years to fix, if it can be fixed at all. The residents of Dalton, who have already suffered due to the cuts and overspending, now face even more uncertainty. With the town's debts growing and the government facing lawsuits from creditors, it's unclear how Dalton will recover from this financial disaster. So, how did Henyard get away with this for so long? It appears she operated with a sense of entitlement, using her position of power to manipulate the system for her personal gain. Her ability to skirt responsibility and continue her extravagant lifestyle while leaving the town in ruins speaks to a troubling disregard for the people she was elected to serve. Instead of facing the consequences of her actions, she allegedly continued to play the system, cashing in on Section 8 payments, taking out loans, and living beyond her means. The situation in Dalton serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and financial mismanagement. Henyard's actions have not only tarnished her reputation, but also caused lasting harm to the town and its residents. While she lived like a queen on taxpayer dollars, The very people she was supposed to be helping were left to suffer the consequences of her greed and poor decision-making as Henyard's financial woes continue to unfold. It's clear that the scandal is far from over. With lawsuits piling up, the town in debt, and her personal finances in shambles, it's uncertain what the future holds for Henyard or Dalton. But one thing is for sure, the fallout from the scandal will continue to affect the town for years to come. In the meantime, Henyard's plea for money only adds fuel to the fire, as residents and outsiders alike are left to wonder how she could have let things get this far. Tiffany Henyard, the former mayor of Dalton, is finding herself at the center of a storm that seems to be closing in from all sides. The woman who once lived a life of lavishness funded by taxpayer money is now on the brink of losing everything, and it's looking like she might not escape the fallout unscathed. From outrageous spending to potential criminal investigations, her fall from grace has been swift and brutal. And it's not over yet. One of the most significant scandals surrounding Henyard is the alleged misuse of government funds, particularly in relation to Section 8 housing. While the program was designed to help low-income families find safe and decent housing, Henyard allegedly turned it into a way to line her own pockets. She owned a property that was eligible for Section 8 payments, but instead of keeping it habitable for tenants, Henyard reportedly neglected the property, letting it fall into a state of disrepair, with mold and water damage throughout. Despite the building being deemed uninhabitable in 2019, Henyard continued to collect Section 8 subsidies for it. Showing a blatant disregard for the program's purpose, the scandal didn't stop there. While Henyard was lining her pockets, the people of Dalton were struggling. The fire department was without a contract for 5 years. Police vehicles were at risk of repossession, and basic services were being neglected. All while Henyard maintained a lavish lifestyle that would make a celebrity jealous. She spent huge sums of taxpayer money on personal luxuries, including $1 million security detail and extravagant trips. At one point, she even dropped nearly $200,000 on welcome banners bearing her own face, all while the town's residents were barely getting by, but Henyard thought she could get away with it. She believed that as mayor, she was untouchable, and tried to cover up her mistakes by sweeping them under the rug. That's where things started to unravel. The FBI became involved, launching a full criminal investigation into Henyard's financial dealings. They weren't just looking at her bank statements. They were digging deep into her personal transactions as well as the town's finances. And what they're finding is not pretty. It turns out that Henyard used taxpayer funds for a variety of personal luxuries, including lavish trips and a security detail that was essentially a personal bodyguard team. This is not just about a few misplaced funds. It's an entire system of financial mismanagement and abuse of power. The investigation is now a full-blown criminal inquiry, and Henyard's actions are under the microscope like never before. To make matters even more interesting, the person overseeing the investigation is none other than Lori Lightfoot, the former mayor of Chicago. Lightfoot, no stranger to the complexities of city politics, has made it clear that she is not going to let Henyard off the hook. Under Henyard's administration, financial mismanagement was rampant, and it appears that Lightfoot and the investigative team are determined to expose every bit of it. More skeletons continue to surface as the investigation continues, making it clear that Henyard's actions were more than just reckless. There was an undeniable pattern of corruption and fraud. Henyard's public image is now in tatters. Residents of Dalton are furious, and they're demanding answers. The town is in turmoil, and Henyard, the woman they entrusted to lead them, is nowhere to be found. She skipped over 25 board meetings, abandoning her post as mayor and leaving Dalton in limbo. The village board, fed up with her absence, had no choice but to appoint Jason House as a temporary mayor. But Tiffany Henyard isn't just missing from the meetings. She's also reportedly selling off her personal belongings in what appears to be a desperate attempt to make ends meet. Despite her lavish lifestyle, she's now scraping to keep the lights on. It's a far cry from the days when she lived like royalty off the backs of Dalton's taxpayers. Meanwhile, back in Dalton, the town is falling apart. Without leadership, it's unclear where things will go from here. The people who trusted Henyard to guide them through tough times are now left with a void where leadership once stood. And to add insult to injury, the financial mess Henyard has created is leaving the hard-working people of Dalton to pick up the pieces. The taxpayers are now left holding the bag after Henyard's reckless spending sprees and lavish trips. It's as if she completely forgot that she was elected to serve the people, not herself. Instead of facing the music and taking responsibility for her actions, Henyard has chosen to try and shift the blame elsewhere. Her former chief assistant Keith Freeman is the latest scapegoat in her story. Henyard has reportedly claimed that Freeman was the one making all the financial decisions, attempting to portray herself as a puppet under his control. But as the mayor, it was ultimately Henyard's responsibility to manage the town's finances. You can't just blame someone else and expect the public to buy it. The truth is, Henyard was the one at the helm, and now her entire leadership has come into question while Henyard tries to deflect responsibility. She's not fooling anyone. Her actions have left Dalton in chaos, and now the town is reeling from the consequences. The damage is done, and it's not just about a few mismanaged funds anymore. This is about corruption, fraud, and the betrayal of public trust. The FBI's investigation continues to unfold, and with each passing day, Henyard's life continues to spiral. What's most disturbing about this situation is how Henyard has seemingly disappeared when the people of Dalton need her most. It's like she's playing a game of hide and seek, hoping the chaos will settle down while she lies low. But you can't just abandon your post and hope the world will forget what you've done. Running a town is not like ghosting a bad date. You can't just leave people in the lurch when they are counting on you to keep things running. Dalton is now navigating this crisis without a leader. And that's exactly what the people of the town are left with: uncertainty, anger, and a sense of betrayal. Henyard's disappearance and her attempt to pin the blame on others have only fueled the fire. She's avoided responsibility at every turn, and now it's becoming increasingly clear that she is trying to escape the consequences of her actions. However, this isn't something that can be swept under the rug. The people of Dalton have been let down in the worst way possible, and they're demanding accountability. And it seems like Henyard may finally be facing the consequences of her actions, her disappearance from the public eye, the investigation into her finances, the lawsuits piling up, and her attempts to deflect blame all point to one thing: the house of cards is about to come crashing down. Tiffany Henyard's time in power has come to an end, and the people of Dalton are watching closely, hoping that justice will finally prevail. The damage may already be done, but at least the truth is starting to emerge. The people of Dalton deserve better, and it looks like they might finally get the accountability they've been waiting for. Tiffany Henyard's downfall is becoming more scandalous by the day, and now the situation has taken a bizarre twist. From allegedly mismanaging public funds to turning Dalton into her personal piggy bank, Tiffany's reign as mayor has been marked by a series of questionable decisions. But the latest chapter in this drama has many wondering if she's truly hit rock bottom, or if this is yet another one of her desperate attempts to avoid the consequences of her actions in addition to her extravagant spending sprees. Henyard reportedly engaged in a series of unethical and possibly illegal activities involving her employees and business owners who refused to comply with her demands. A former HR manager claims she was fired for not helping hide public documents, and another worker says he lost his job for not going along with Henyard's plan to replace the town school attorney. It seems that working under Henyard was less about serving the public and more about following orders. Do as I say or hit the road. The situation allegedly worsened when Henyard turned her attention to local business owners who didn't support her. Lawrence Gardner, one such business owner, claims that after he refused to participate in one of Henyard's activities, the Dalton police harassed him and even canceled his business license. It seemed as though Henyard's leadership style was more akin to a Ponzi scheme than running a town, using intimidation and manipulation to get what she wanted. As if that wasn't enough, Henyard also found herself borrowing money and using city infrastructure as collateral. Yes, you read that correctly. Public property was allegedly used to secure loans. This move has caused a massive headache for the town, as creditors are now knocking on Dalton's door, hoping to seize the very infrastructure that Henyard had used as collateral. The situation has quickly gone from bad to worse, and the financial fallout is starting to become clear, but here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Tiffany Henyard, the woman who once flung taxpayer dollars around like confetti, has started a GoFundMe page. Yes, after all the extravagant spending, luxury vacations, and million-dollar security details, she's now pleading for money from the public. It seems that Henyard's financial mismanagement has finally caught up with her, and now she's trying to raise funds online to cover her $119,000 worth of welcome banners and Vegas getaways. Talk about nerve. Many people are in disbelief over this move. How did a woman who once lived like a Kardashian end up begging for handouts from regular folks? Some people are even suggesting that Henyard never really thought about the millions she spent, and is now hoping the public will bail her out of the mess she's created. But is this GoFundMe campaign real? Or is it just another scam in a long line of questionable moves? Some critics believe that this GoFundMe is simply Henyard's last-ditch effort to cover her tracks. With creditors coming after her and the FBI sniffing around, it's possible that she's trying to raise money to pay off her debts or fund her next disappearance. Henyard has a history of vanishing when the heat is on, and some are worried that she'll collect as much money as she can and disappear before anyone can ask where the mayor went. The timing of her GoFundMe page has raised a lot of eyebrows. How did someone who was once living a life of luxury suddenly need to ask for money from the very people she was supposed to serve? Some are starting to wonder if there's more to this story than meets the eye. Could Henyard's sudden financial troubles be part of a larger scheme to cover up even more shady dealings while Henyard is busy trying to raise money online? The people of Dalton are still reeling from the fallout of her reign. The town is in serious financial trouble with its credit shot, police vehicles on the brink of repossession, and the fire department still without a contract after years of waiting. Dalton's problems are far from over, but Henyard's GoFundMe seems to suggest she believes she can still get the public to bail her out. People are skeptical, to say the least. Some claim that Henyard is simply trying to play the victim card, hoping the public will forget about her shady actions if she can tug at their heartstrings. Others believe this GoFundMe campaign is nothing more than a last-minute attempt to raise funds to pay back the money she owes. What's even more outrageous is that, despite all of this chaos, Henyard has reportedly raised almost $155,000 for herself through this campaign. This is the same woman who was living like royalty while her town crumbled, now turning to the very people she betrayed to fund her way out of trouble. People are starting to wonder how she went from a high-profile mayor living it up to begging for money online. Critics are also pointing out the hypocrisy of it all. Henyard was quick to flaunt her wealth and status while doling out taxpayer money for her own benefit. Yet now she expects those same taxpayers to foot the bill. Some are accusing her of taking advantage of her position as a public figure, believing that her status as a black woman puts her in a protected class where she won't face the same consequences as others. The narrative is taking on racial and political dimensions, with some suggesting that Henyard is using her identity and political affiliations to shield herself from scrutiny and avoid facing the full brunt of her actions. But even as the drama unfolds, some are still asking, is Tiffany Henyard just a con artist looking to manipulate the system, or is she a victim of forces beyond her control? As her GoFundMe campaign continues to raise eyebrows, it seems like the people of Dalton are starting to see through her act. Many are outraged that Henyard is still trying to escape accountability for her actions, and they're not willing to let her get away with it. The fact that she has raised so much money online, despite the enormous damage she's caused, is baffling to some. People are questioning how anyone could still support her after all that's happened, and whether the GoFundMe campaign is an act of desperation or just another hustle. Regardless, the situation in Dalton is a hot mess, and it seems like Tiffany Henyard is at the center of it all, trying to navigate her way out of a mess that she created in the end. The real question is whether Henyard will be able to get away with it all. Will the public continue to give her money, or will they finally demand accountability for the chaos she has caused? The story is still unfolding, but one thing is clear. Tiffany Henyard has pushed her luck one too many times, and now it's only a matter of time before everything catches up to her. Tiffany Henyard's sudden shift from living a lavish life to asking for public donations has many questioning if she's genuinely broke or just pulling another scheme. After years of reckless spending and mismanaging taxpayer money, some believe she's simply using this GoFundMe campaign as her final act of deception. The general feeling is that Tiffany will take whatever money she can get, disappear once again, and leave the people of Dalton holding the bag. It's a move many see as a desperate attempt to cover her tracks and keep the public from fully realizing the extent of her actions. People are scratching their heads, wondering how someone who once lived like a Kardashian can go from flashing wealth to begging for handouts. The sharp contrast between Tiffany's past lavish lifestyle and her present financial plea has raised eyebrows. She reportedly hasn't shown up for about 25 board meetings, sold off her personal belongings, and is now relying on the public to bail her out. Dalton residents who have long memories aren't buying her act and are demanding accountability. Many feel like this GoFundMe campaign is just another play for sympathy. Tiffany hoping people will forget about the shady things she's been up to and forgive her reckless spending while Tiffany tries to raise money. Dalton's financial crisis deepens. The town's credit is shot. The police department's cars are facing repossession, and the fire department has gone without a contract for years. Yet, Tiffany continues to ask for money from regular people. It's as if she's living in a bubble, expecting the same public she exploited for years to fund her recovery. But that's not how things work now. Some wonder if this GoFundMe is her attempt to pay off the creditors she owes, or if it's just another way to prepare for her next escape. The most shocking part is that, despite everything, Tiffany has reportedly raised nearly $155,000 for herself. Some people are still falling for her act, believing she's in a tough spot. But those who've seen her lavish lifestyle firsthand aren't as sympathetic. Many feel that she's used her position to manipulate others, and that she's likely using her identity as a shield to avoid real consequences. Some even argue that Tiffany is benefiting from black privilege, claiming that because she checks so many diversity boxes, she's being protected from real accountability. The belief is that, as a public figure and a Democrat, she has the resources and influence to avoid justice. No matter how much damage she's caused, it's hard to know what to believe. Is Tiffany Henyard truly broke, or is she just playing the victim to avoid facing the fallout from her actions? One thing's for sure, her time in Dalton has been one big mess, and now that she's being exposed, people are left wondering how long it'll take before the truth comes out. What do you think? Does Tiffany really need help, or is this just another scam? Leave a comment below with your thoughts.